The sky above the alien world was dark and full of smoke. Strange ships floated above, shining lights on the ground. The planet was at war. Giant warrior women marched through fire and rubble. They wore glowing armor and carried sharp weapons. They feared nothing. Suddenly, a loud boom echoed from above. Something was falling fast from the sky. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a drone. It was a human escape pod. The pod crashed into the middle of the alien army. Dust and fire flew everywhere. The warriors jumped back, weapons ready. But what stepped out of the pod made them freeze, not in fear, but in confusion. A man. A human. Young, weak-looking, and alone. He had no armor. No weapon. Just torn clothes and a cut on his forehead. His name was Eli. His ship had exploded near this war planet, and he was the only survivor. Now he stood face to face with the deadliest alien warrior race in the galaxy. They pointed their spears and blasters at him. Still, Eli raised both hands and said softly, "I'm not here to fight." The alien warriors laughed. One of them, tall and covered in purple armor, stepped forward. Her voice was full of power. "He's weak. What a joke. Let's take him to the Queen. She'll love this toy." They tied his hands, but Eli didn't fight. He walked calmly, looking at everything. He was afraid but not frozen. Curious but quiet. The warriors dragged him through their great city. Huge towers touched the clouds. Flying beasts circled the skies. Alien children stared at Eli from behind fences. Some laughed. Some looked scared. Finally, they entered the royal palace. It was massive, shining with crystals and light. On the throne sat a tall, strong woman. Her eyes were gold. Her crown glowed. She was the queen, ruler of the Valari warrior race. The warriors threw Eli to the floor. "My queen," the lead guard said. "We found this human falling from the sky. He's alone, no weapons, weak." The queen stood and walked down the stairs slowly. Her boots echoed across the marble floor. She stopped in front of Eli and looked at him. "So," she said, "this is what humans send to us now? This child?" The crowd laughed. Even the princess, named Zira, smiled with pride and spoke loudly. "He looks like he'd cry if he broke a nail." Eli stayed on his knees. He didn't shout. He didn't beg. He looked at the queen with calm eyes and asked, "Are you the one in charge?" The crowd went silent. The queen raised one eyebrow. "You dare to speak?" "I respect power," Eli said, "and I see it in you, but not in them." He looked at the laughing guards. "They think I'm weak. Maybe I am, but weakness doesn't mean useless." The queen stared at him longer. Then, without a word, she turned and walked back to her throne. She raised her hand. "Do not kill him," she said. "Put him in the guest cells. I want to speak with him later." Everyone was shocked, even Zira. "Mother, he's just a human." "Silence," the queen said. "I want to look deeper." Guards pulled Eli away, but this time with care. No kicks, no laughs, just confusion. In the cell, Eli sat alone. The room was clean and warm. A small alien bird sang outside the window. He looked at the stars and whispered, "Why did she spare me?" Hours passed, then the door opened. A shadow stepped in. It was the queen. She didn't bring guards. She stood in front of Eli and said, "You looked me in the eye today." "That doesn't happen often. Tell me, human, where do you come from? And why do I feel like you're hiding something?" Eli looked up. He smiled. "I'm not hiding anything," he said. "But maybe I'm not what you expected." The queen tilted her head. "We'll see." She left, but her voice echoed as the door closed. "You're not weak. You're strange. That's more dangerous." The next morning, the sun rose over the alien city, casting long shadows over the royal palace. Everything looked calm, but inside the queen's mind there was a storm. The Queen of Valari sat alone in her chamber. She stared at the wall where old weapons of dead kings were displayed. Spears, crowns, glowing blades, silent reminders of her ancestors. Her golden eyes narrowed. "That human," she whispered to herself. "Eli, what are you?" Suddenly, her royal guard entered. "He's awake," the guard said. "Good," the queen replied. "Bring him to the Hall of Truth. I want to test him myself." Eli stood in the giant hall, his hands free this time. The floor beneath him was made of black stone. Above, strange symbols floated in the air like smoke. Alien guards stood all around, silent. Princess Zira was there too, her arms crossed, eyes full of doubt. "What is this place?" Eli asked, looking around. "The Hall of Truth," the queen answered as she walked in. "Where lies are burned, and only truth remains. At the center of the hall stood a floating crystal weapon held in the air by blue light. It pulsed like a heartbeat. "This," the queen said, "is the Blade of Kings. Only one who is worthy can touch it." "Not even I can," the crowd gasped. Even Zyra looked surprised. "We found it in the ruins of our ancestors," the queen continued. "It chooses leaders, not blood, not muscle. And you want me to touch it?" Eli asked. "Yes," she said. "Touch it. If it stays cold, you are nothing. But if it glows, even for a second, then you are something more." Zyra laughed out loud. "He can't even lift a sword." "Why this joke?" "Silence," the queen said calmly. "Let the weapon decide." Eli took a deep breath. He stepped forward. Every eye watched. The hall was so quiet you could hear hearts pounding. He reached out slowly. His fingers touched the edge of the crystal weapon. Nothing. Then, flash. The crystal exploded with bright blue light, lighting up the whole hall. The symbols in the air spun like a storm. The stone under Eli's feet cracked. The guards raised their weapons in panic, but Eli just stood there. The weapon floated higher, then slowly came down and hovered in front of him. It was offering itself. The queen stood frozen. Zyra's mouth dropped open. That's impossible." Eli stepped back, his face pale. "I didn't do anything," he said. "I just touched it." The queen walked toward him slowly. She stopped just a few feet away and spoke quietly. "Do you know what this means?" "No," Eli said honestly. "It means," she whispered, "that our world has been waiting for someone like you." But outside the hall, in the shadows of the palace, not everyone was happy. In a dark room, 4 older alien warriors sat around a glowing table. They were leaders of the Old Council, a group that believed only Valari-born warriors should rule. "Did you see it?" one of them growled. "That human touched the weapon." "The queen is losing her mind," another said. "She's letting her emotions blind her." "We cannot allow a weak alien to sit on any throne," the third hissed. "We must act." Their leader, a tall warrior with silver armor, nodded slowly. "Tonight," she said, "we end this before it begins." Back inside the palace, Eli walked beside the queen in her private garden. Giant glowing flowers moved when they passed. Strange birds sang soft alien songs. "So, what happens now?" Eli asked. "You rest," the queen said. "But not for long. You still think I'm special?" he said, half smiling. The queen stopped and looked at him seriously. "You're not strong. You're not trained. But you looked into my eyes and spoke with calm, not fear. Then you touched the weapon of kings, and it answered. I don't know who you are, Eli, but I know this, you're not ordinary." "That's a lot to take in," he whispered. "You will have to decide what you want to become," she said. "A guest? A soldier? Or something more?" Before Eli could answer, Zyra arrived with sharp eyes. "Mother, you're risking everything." "He could be a trick, a trap. Or," the queen said calmly, "he could be the future." As the queen walked away, Zyra stood alone with Eli. She looked him up and down and said, "You might have fooled the weapon, human. But you won't fool me." She leaned closer. "One mistake, and I'll make sure you disappear before the next sunrise." Then she walked away, leaving Eli standing in the garden, unsure of what had just begun. The training grounds of the Valari Palace were silent as the sun rose. The usual sounds of shouting warriors, clashing metal, and stomping boots were gone. Today was different. Today, a human was going to fight. Eli stood in the center of the ring, a simple circle marked with glowing lines. He wore light armor made for training, though it hung loosely on his body. His eyes scanned the watching crowd. Most looked amused. Some looked angry. None looked worried. Princess Zyra sat at the edge, arms crossed, her face cold. "He won't last 5 seconds," she muttered. Across the ring stood a tall warrior named Krava. She had muscles like stone and eyes like fire. She was one of the queen's champions, fast, brutal, and proud. "I don't fight weaklings," she growled, cracking her knuckles. "But for you, human, I'll make an exception." Eli stayed quiet. His heart raced, but he remembered what Earth's monks taught him. Violence is loud, but peace is smarter. The queen raised her hand. "Begin." The moment the word left her lips, Krava charged. The crowd roared, but Eli didn't move. Just before Krava's punch could hit his chest, he stepped sideways gently. Her fist missed by inches. She stumbled forward, surprised. Again she attacked, faster, sharper. Again, Eli dodged, and again. The crowd stopped laughing. He didn't punch. He didn't kick. He just moved like water flowing with her attacks. Krava growled, angry now. "Stand still." She jumped and swung her leg toward his head. Eli ducked smoothly, then tapped her shoulder with 2 fingers. She froze. Suddenly, her armor turned black, its power shutting down. Her body trembled. She dropped to one knee, gasping. What did you do?" she asked. Eli knelt beside her. "You fight with strength," he said softly. "But strength is not control. I simply touch the energy point under your collar. It stops the flow." The silence was deep. Then a loud voice shouted, "Witchcraft!" It was one of the old council leaders. "He cheated. This isn't honor." The queen stood. "He did not cheat," she said. "He ended the fight without pain. Without death. Isn't that what true power is?" Princess Zira looked confused. This wasn't what she expected. She wanted him to lose, or at least fight, but this? No blade, no punch, and yet he won. That evening, the queen invited Eli to her private chamber. A long table was set with alien fruits, glowing tea, and old books. "You fight like no warrior I've seen," she said. "I was trained on Earth," Eli replied, "by monks who taught control, not destruction. Our people believe only blood earns respect," she said. But today, they were silent. "You made them think." "That's rare," Eli nodded. "I don't want to be a king. I didn't come here for power." "Maybe," the queen said, "but maybe power came looking for you." They sat in silence. Then a guard burst in. "My queen, the old council has summoned you. They demand a challenge." "For what?" she asked. "They say your support of the human is betrayal." The queen stood, eyes dark. "So they want war. Fine, but we'll play it smart." She turned to Eli. "Tomorrow they will test you again. But this time it won't be a duel. It will be a game of the mind." The next day, Eli stood in the Hall of Memories, a chamber filled with alien puzzles, traps, and illusions. The old council watched from high seats above. The test? A maze of floating tiles, each with a riddle and only one path to reach the end. One wrong step, death. Eli took a deep breath and began. As he stepped onto the first tile, a voice boomed, "What walks without legs and speaks without voice?" He smiled. Wind. The tile glowed green. Safe. Next. "I carry history but have no memory." "What am I?" He paused, then answered, "A book." Another green tile. One by one, he solved them. The crowd grew quiet again. Even Zira leaned forward, watching with wide eyes. At the final tile, the last riddle came. "What is stronger than stone, softer than silk, feared by kings and born from hearts?" Eli closed his eyes. The answer wasn't in books. It was something he'd felt. He opened his eyes and said, "Compassion." The path lit up. He had done it. When he returned to the queen, she smiled. "You fought our blade. You passed our test. What now, human?" Eli looked into her eyes and said, "Now I wait, because the real battle hasn't started yet." The night sky above the Valari Palace was quiet, too quiet. The glowing towers stood like sleeping giants. Royal guards stood at their posts, but their eyes felt heavy, their minds relaxed. Inside, Eli sat in a small chamber given to him by the queen. It was not a prison, but it didn't feel like freedom either. He stared out the window at the stars. "I don't belong here," he whispered to himself. "But something tells me I was meant to come." He didn't know that in the darkest hallway of the palace, betrayal was already walking in silence without mercy. Far below, in the underground hall of the old council, 4 cloaked figures stood in a circle. Their eyes glowed under their hoods. "The queen has gone mad," one hissed. "She lifts up a human over her own people," said another. "If she won't protect the throne," the third whispered, "we will take it." Their leader, the same silver-armored elder from before, stepped forward. "Tonight," she said, "the human disappears, and the queen follows." At midnight, everything changed. A loud boom shook the palace walls. The floor cracked. Windows shattered. Smoke and fire spilled into the main hall. Guards screamed. Alarms rang. Doors blew open. Eli jumped up and ran out of his chamber. The air smelled of burning metal. He could hear shouting. A guard stumbled past him, bleeding. "They took her," the guard gasped. "The queen gone." "Gone? What?" Eli shouted. "Who took her?" The guard collapsed. Eli looked down the hallway and saw 3 warriors dragging the queen's golden robe. She was missing. Her crown lay on the floor, broken. Moments later, the palace doors slammed shut behind Eli. A group of armored soldiers surrounded him. "You," one of them shouted. "You did this." "No," Eli shouted back. "I heard the explosion. I ran here." But no one listened. Zira appeared from the smoke, sword in hand, eyes full of fire. "Put him in chains," she said. "Zyra, please," Eli said. "I didn't. My mother is gone," she snapped. "And you're the only one who had her trust. Too much trust." Chains clicked around his wrists. His heart pounded. He had no weapons, no friends, and no time. "Take him to the pit," Zyra said coldly. The pit was deep below the palace. A round cell carved from stone. No windows, no light. Just shadows that whispered. Eli sat in the center alone. "So this is what trust gets me," he muttered. But then, "Psst," a soft voice echoed. Eli looked up. A shape moved behind the wall. Then a panel slid open and a familiar face peeked in. Zira. But her eyes weren't cold now. They were afraid. "I had to act," she whispered. "They're watching me." "You threw me in a cell," Eli said, voice low. "To protect you," she snapped. "They were going to kill you. But I need your help." Eli blinked. "What happened to the queen?" "The old council took her," Zira said. "They want to force her to name a new heir, or disappear forever." "And they blame me," Eli said. Zira nodded. "You were the perfect excuse." She pressed a switch. The wall slid open wider. "Come on," she said. "I know where they're taking her, but we have to move now." They slipped through the secret tunnels under the palace. The walls were old, filled with ancient symbols and dust. Zira moved fast. Eli followed, heart racing. "Why help me now?" he asked. She didn't look back. "Because," she said, "I saw your eyes when you touched the blade. You didn't want power. That's why you might deserve it." "I'm not a king," Eli whispered. "Maybe not," she said. "But you're the only one left who can save one." They reached an old exit near the edge of the city. A broken gate led into the wild jungles beyond, a place full of danger. Eli stared into the trees. "You sure this is the way?" Zira pulled out a small glowing map. "The council has an old fortress deep in the jungle. That's where they took her." "And what happens when we get there?" Zira gave a small smile. "We sneak in, find my mother, and steal back the future." Eli raised his eyebrows. "You say that like it's easy." "It's not," she said. "But you did say peace is smarter than violence. Let's see if you're smart enough to outthink an entire army." They stepped into the jungle together. The trees closed around them. The sounds of the city faded behind them. Now it was just Eli and Zira, and the dark unknown ahead. But one thing was clear. The game had changed. The jungle outside the Valari city was nothing like Earth. The trees were blue. The air glowed faintly. Strange animals with 3 eyes watched from branches. The plants whispered when touched. Eli stepped carefully. The soft ground squished under his boots. Behind him, Princess Zira moved like a ghost, silent and fast. "Stay close," she said. "Everything here wants to eat us." "That's comforting," Eli replied. "Better than getting killed by the council," she said with a smirk. They pushed forward through thick vines and thorny roots. Above, glowing insects floated like stars. Below, the jungle hummed like it was alive. "Where are we going exactly?" Eli asked. "To a place my mother once showed me," Zira answered. "Long ago?" "Before she was queen." "Why there?" Zyra didn't answer at first, then she said, "Because it's where old kings were trained. And if you're going to save her, you'll need to awaken." After hours of walking, they reached a clearing. In the center stood a ruined temple, half covered in roots and moss. Its stone walls were cracked. Strange alien symbols were carved deep into the rock. A broken statue of a warrior with 4 arms lay on the ground. Zira stepped forward and placed her hand on a symbol. It glowed. The ground rumbled. Slowly, a doorway opened into the earth. "This is it," she said. "The Temple of the Chosen." "Sounds dramatic," Eli muttered. Zira looked at him. "If you want to survive what's coming, you have to go inside alone." "You're not coming?" She shook her head. "Only one may enter. That's the rule." Eli looked at the dark tunnel. Cold air rushed out. And what's inside? Truth, she said. Pain. And maybe power. Eli took a breath, then stepped in. Inside, it was cold and quiet. Blue crystals lit the walls as he walked deeper. Strange images appeared, visions of old battles, kings crowned, swords raised. Then a voice echoed all around him. Why do you seek power, human? I don't, Eli said. But I need it. Need or want. Someone I care about is in danger, he said. She believed in me. I can't let her fall. The voice paused, then, step forward. Let the trial begin. The room changed. Suddenly, Eli was standing in a burning field. Warriors screamed. Bodies lay scattered. In front of him stood himself, but different. Angry. Dressed in black armor. You could rule this planet, the shadow Eli said. Take the throne. Crush your enemies. Make Zyra kneel. No, Eli said. That's not who I am. You could be, the shadow whispered. I don't want a crown, Eli said. I want peace. The shadow vanished. The flames faded. The room changed again. Now he was standing on a stone platform. Above a deep glowing pit, a floating AI orb hovered before him. Ancient. Rusted. Alive. Identity confirmed, it said in an old robotic voice. You are compatible. Human mind. Valeri's soul. What does that mean? It means the old system accepts you. Do you accept it back? Eli paused. Yes, the orb glowed. A panel opened. A suit of light armor floated out piece by piece, fitting perfectly onto his body. It wasn't heavy, it felt alive. Then came the final piece, a glowing crown. Simple, silver, quiet. He didn't wear it. He held it. Let others chase power, he said. I'll chase purpose. The door behind him opened. Zyra stood there, eyes wide. You look different, she whispered. I feel different, Eli said. But still me. Then we better move, she said. They'll reach the fortress soon. Good, Eli replied. So will we. As they walked back through the jungle, the plants seemed to lean away from Eli. The sky above grew darker, but something inside him glowed brighter. Zyra watched him closely. You passed the temple, she said. You faced the truth. Yeah, he said. And I didn't like all of it, she smiled. That's how you know you're ready. Far away, deep inside the jungle fortress, the old council prepared their final ritual. The queen was chained in a chamber of light. Her crown had been taken. Her voice silenced, but she still believed. He's coming, she whispered, and you'll regret waking him. The sky above the jungle fortress had turned red. Storm clouds gathered. Lightning crackled without rain. The planet seemed to sense what was coming. Deep in the jungle, the air itself changed, as if it was holding its breath. Zyra stood beside Eli at the edge of the cliff. Below them was the fortress of the old council, hidden behind walls of black stone, surrounded by thick roots and watchtowers shaped like blades. That's where my mother is, Zyra whispered. They'll try to break her spirit tonight. Eli said nothing. He just stared. His new armor shimmered softly in the light made from ancient Valeri tech. It was silver and blue, smooth like water, quiet like the night. But it was his eyes that had changed most. They were calm and powerful. We go in fast, Zyra said. We take the south entrance. I know a weak point in their shields. No, Eli said quietly. They're expecting a soldier. Let's give them something else. He stepped forward and placed his hand on the ground. From his fingertips, soft blue light spread like vines through the soil. The ancient armor pulsed. The very ground responded. Suddenly, the outer defense gates of the fortress opened on their own. Zyra's mouth fell open. What did you just do? The old systems don't answer to the council anymore, Eli said. They answer to me. Inside the fortress, the council elders watched in silence as alarms blared. One by one, their weapons failed. Doors unlocked. Lights flickered. And then he walked in, no army, no guns, just Eli, glowing softly like a living memory. Warriors who once laughed at him now stood frozen. He passed through their lines untouched. One guard tried to raise a blade. Zyra disarmed him. In one smooth move, Eli reached the throne room. The queen was chained to a cold wall, her crown shattered on the floor beside her. Her eyes were tired, but when she saw him, they widened. You came, she whispered. Of course, Eli said. And then, without raising his hand, the chains around her wrists unlocked and fell. Gasps echoed across the room. The silver-armored elder of the council stepped forward. Her face twisted with anger. You don't belong here, human, she shouted. You are not Valari. Eli looked around the room. You're right, he said. I'm not Valari, but I am something you forgot long ago. He stepped up to the center of the hall and touched the floor. The ground lit up in ancient blue light. Holographic circle rose around him, an old royal, symbol that hadn't been seen in generations, the same one that appeared when true kings were chosen. Eli stood inside it. Then he spoke softly but clearly. I don't want your throne. I don't need your crown. But I will protect the one who does. He turned to the queen and offered her the broken crown she once wore. This belongs to you, he said. The queen smiled, tears in her eyes. No, she whispered. It belongs to you. She placed the broken crown in his hands. It glowed, healed itself, and changed shape. It was now lighter, sleeker. His Zira stepped forward, looking stunned. He's not just one of us, she whispered. He's more. The council elder shouted again, this time in fear. Stop him. Destroy him. But no one moved. Even her guards looked unsure. Then, with a voice full of thunder, Eli said, No more lies. No more chains. The age of fear is over. He lifted his hand and a soft wave of peace swept across the room. Angry hearts cooled. Blades dropped. Even the silver-armored elder fell to her knees. What are you? She whispered. Eli stepped down from the platform. Just a human, he said. One who chose peace instead of power. He turned to the queen and Zira. You still rule, he told the queen. But now, no one rules by fear again. She nodded, and in front of everyone she bent her head slightly. Then we stand, beside our king. Later that night the fortress doors were opened. The stars returned. The storms cleared, the people came out of hiding. Children stared at the human who saved their queen. Zira stood beside Eli on the high steps of the fortress. They're waiting, she said. For what? He asked. To see what kind of king you'll be. He smiled gently. One who listens, and then he knelt. To them, he said. Because every great king serves first. Zira stared at him, heart pounding. Maybe he really was the one their world had waited for. The city of Valari glowed like never before. Blue lights floated in the air. Bells rang across the sky. The war was over. The fear was gone. And the people who once feared humans stood in silence, watching their new king, not a warrior, not a conqueror, but a man who had chosen peace over pride, heart over hate. Eli stood at the balcony of the palace, looking over the crowd. He wore no heavy robe, no golden crown, just the soft silver armor gifted by the temple of the chosen. Beside him stood the queen, regal and calm. On her other side stood Zira, her face no longer full of fire, but thought. They're waiting for a speech, Zira said softly. What would I say? Eli whispered back. I'm not like your leaders. Good, the queen said. They've had enough of speeches. Speak like you always do, from the truth. Eli took a deep breath and stepped forward. The people looked up, and then, in a soft voice that still reached every ear, he said, I didn't come here to rule. I fell from the sky, and you could have let me die. But one queen saw something, and one princess decided to believe. I don't bring weapons. I don't bring orders. I bring one thing only, the choice to be different. And if I must wear this crown, then I wear it not above you, but with you. The crowd went quiet, and then they knelt. For the first time in Valari history, the people bowed not out of fear, but respect. Later, as the stars returned to the sky, Eli sat alone in the queen's garden. He looked up at the night and whispered, I'm still just a human. A very strange one, said a voice behind him. He turned. It was Zira, no armor, no sword. Just her and a small glowing crystal in her hand. What's that? He asked. A gift, she said. From the queen. She sat beside him and opened her palm. The crystal rose into the air and lit up the garden around them. Then it played a memory, a moving image. Eli saw the queen as a child, long ago kneeling at the same garden spot crying. Her father, an old king, stood behind her. You must be strong, the old king had said. But I don't want to fight, the young queen replied. I want to heal. Then lead with that, he said. One day you will find someone who carries peace like a weapon, and you will know they are your true partner. The memory ended. The crystal dimmed. Zyra looked at Eli. She thinks you're the one her father spoke about. Eli was quiet. Then he smiled gently. Your mother is wise. Sometimes too wise, Zyra said with a small laugh. Eli stood up. What about you? What do you see when you look at me now? Zyra didn't answer right away, then she stood too. I see someone who doesn't belong here, but somehow belongs everywhere. She handed him the crystal. This is the Queen's gift, she said. But I have one too. She leaned forward and kissed his forehead. That's from me, she said, for choosing kindness over a crown. The next morning, the palace was quiet again. Eli packed his small bag. He had chosen not to stay in the royal wing. He still liked simple things, a window with a view, a warm drink, silence. Zyra found him just before he left his chamber. Leaving already? She asked. No, he said. Just visiting the people. She raised an eyebrow. Kings don't usually walk through markets alone. Maybe they should, he smiled. He walked past her, gently tapping the crystal still glowing in his hand. By the way, he added, tell your mother I accept the crown. But I won't sit on the throne. Why not? She asked. Because I think she should sit there, he said. And maybe you too. I'll stand beside you both. Zyra shook her head, smiling. You really are the weirdest king we've ever had. I'll take that as a compliment, he grinned. And so it was. The story of the weak human who fell from the sky became the legend of the king without a throne, a ruler who didn't command by shouting, but by listening, a warrior who didn't conquer by blades, but by peace. And in the heart of a once divided world, one truth remained. Sometimes the strongest force in the galaxy is kindness.